Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Software Testing. My name is Daniel Knott, and I'm happy that you're here. Today is a video that is special for me, because it's the first time that I'm going to do a reaction video. I hope you like it. Let's see how it goes. And the video, or the reaction that I would like to do today is about AskUI. And for those who know, of you who don't know AskUI, AskUI is a startup from Germany where I'm also in the advisory board. And AskUI has the mission to build a tool, or actually they built a tool which says, okay, automate your UI everywhere, right? So you can write automated scripts that can run on web application, browser application, enterprise application, desktop applications, and you can even do it cross application wise with AskUI. And I've seen the video from Johannes where he was where he's live coding and showing how to do a two-factor authentication with AskUI, and I really like the video, and I think it's something that you should see. And of course I would like to help them to grow their community. And with that, I'm doing the reaction now, and I'm starting the video right now to let's see what's going to happen. So let's take a look. Hitting play.
Hello, I'm Johannes from AskUI, and today we are building a two-factor
He has a fancy setup though. I need to talk to him how to do all the lighting in the background.
authentication GitHub workflow automation with a browser we have on our laptop and a real Android device we have here. For the setup of this tutorial, we need to do two things. We need to set up our tablet, and then we need to set up our GitHub account. For the tablet, we need to enable USB debugging, install the LastPath app, and enable screenshots for the LastPath app. So let's do that now. To set up your tablet, you have to install the LastPath Authenticator app from the Google Play Store. This is how it looks when you already installed it. So let's open it. For AskUI to function properly, you have to enable screenshots. Go to the settings.
Yeah, that's important for AskUI, because based on screenshots, the AI that they have implemented is basically scanning all the objects on the screen, and based on that, the system is deriving the ID identifier for the automated script in order to execute the scripts later on. So that's why it's important to enable the screenshot functionality of the app as well.
LastPath app and enable the screenshots. You can see screenshots are enabled here, and that's it for the LastPath Authenticator app.
But I'm not sure. I think that that's only needed for LastPath to enable the screenshots, because of security related issues. Because I haven't seen this option on other apps, right? On normal Android apps, I've never seen a screenshot settings, and I think you can just do screenshots from any app. That I think it's just LastPass that is preventing this, or any other app that is storing passwords in a database. Yeah.
Next, we have to enable USB debugging on your device. Depending on your Android version and manufacturer of the tablet,
Tap a couple of times the build number, and then you go there, you get it. Yeah.
This is a little bit different. So I will show you how it's done on my tablet. First, head over to the settings. Then find System and scroll down to About the tablet. Then find the build number, it's here, and hit it 7 times. A little pop-up on the bottom should show up, which says,
I think there was also the Easter egg implemented on Android, right? When you tap not only the build version to get in the development mode, but also to tap the Android operating system version. Google, or like the manufacturer, they always put like a little screen, like a full screen explanation, or like a screen where it says, okay, it's Lollipop, it's Nougat, or whatever. So also try it out. It's fun to do.
Developer mode enabled. Let's go back from About a tablet, and there should be a new option, Developer Options. Hit it and scroll down to USB debugging.
I really like that USB debugging functionality on Android. It's so easy then afterwards to use ADB to connect the device to your system, and then just to use ADB to start a device, to kill the device server and stuff like that. You can do screenshots, you can do screen recordings, you can trigger the ADB monkey. I mean, I've done a video for that one. For that, if you would like to see it, I can link it here as well, where you can like just randomly send commands to your device connected, and ADB is so powerful. So in case you haven't used ADB so far, I highly recommend you to do so, because it's really cool.
There we have it. And
what else to mention? This is not specific to AskUI, the USB debugging functionality that you needed. It's basically the first thing that you do when you're a developer or software or mobile tester. You go to your Android device, enable the developer mode, enable USB debugging in order to connect the device to your system and to have access to it, to deploy applications, to reset applications, and so forth and so forth.
Make sure it is enabled. And now you're good to go.
So
to complete the setup, you have to link your two-factor authentication of GitHub with your LastPass authenticator app. Hop over to github.com and you should see your personal page. Then click on the avatar on the right top, go to Settings, Password and Authentication, and there you should be able to enable the two-factor authentication steps. This will guide you through a series of steps to set up the LastPass authenticator app as an authenticator app for the two-factor authentication. Basically, you should end up with something like that in your app. There you can see the AskUI two-factor personal account is linked to our LastPass app here. And that's it. You're good to go, and we can start implement the automation for AskUI.
Yeah, finally, setup is always boring, but it's important to do. So let's take a look now how you can run the first test with AskUI, not only on the web application, but also on the Android device.
If you want to follow along, I strongly suggest you clone the GitHub repository I linked below. I use it here for my tutorial.
I will also make sure to link everything in my video description, so it's you can also go to AskUI, to the channel. I will also make sure to link it here in the video. But if you would like to just take a look now, I'll make sure scroll down in the video description to see all about AskUI, or like where to start.
You also may need to install the Android Development Bridge, where I put a tutorial in the description below, where you can see how that is done. And finally, you need a workspace ID and an access token for AskUI to work. I also put a link to our developer portal there. And then you're good to go. If you followed the whole tutorial on setting up the Android Development Bridge, you should also have the ADB keyboard in version 2.0 installed. If you haven't done so, I put a link in the description to the direct link on how to install the ADB keyboard. If you're ready to go and connected your tablet to your laptop or your computer, then you can head over to your Visual Studio Code or any other IDE you prefer and open the terminal and type in ADB devices. And my laptop is connected successfully to our tablet.
Yeah, now you can see the first powerful command of ADB.
And we are good to go. I'm already in the GitHub repository we downloaded. It's the Flood example repository, and we can see how the structure is here now. So the first thing we want to do here is download our platform-specific UI controller. To do that successfully, we actually need to run an AskUI test. So head over to our two-factor authentication use case directory and run our first AskUI test. For it to run properly, we need to install a few things first. Because it's a Node.js project, we have a package.json and we need all the dependencies. That's AskUI.
More setup.
And all the dependencies it needs. So what we do here is run npm install. That should install all the dependencies AskUI needs. Okay, it's done. Then we have the scripts in the package.json. The first one is to annotate interactively. This actually shows an annotation of your screen, which is selected. We will come to that in a second, which screen you annotate if you have more than one. And annotate interactively runs a chest test with the test spec under test annotate interactively config.test.ts with the config chest.config.ts. Remember the credentials you created? We need to input them somewhere. So
I hope you wrote them down somewhere.
over to helper chest setup ts. There you will find all the configuration for the UI controller and the UI controller client, which holds the credentials. So when we look at line 15 here, then it says displays 2. And display 2 means that it should use my second display here. If you only have one main display, then display 0 is fine. But you have to find out for yourself with Annotate Interactively which display it actually annotates. And then we have in line 20 and 21, there you have to input the credentials you created. It's a workspace ID and a token ID. We created them beforehand, and let's input them here. That's it. Now you can run your first AskUI test and see if it annotates the right display. What we do here is run npm, run annotate interactively. That runs the annotation interactively. The first run can be a little bit longer because it has to download your platform-specific UI controller, which has a few megabytes. And
oh, look at this. So it looks really cool, right? So AskUI is doing a complete screenshot of your screen, and what you can see in the red like rectangles is basically the stuff that AskUI has identified as potential objects for automation. Really cool.
You have it. We have the correct display selected, and you can see all the annotations. If you don't see all the annotations and you're on Mac, then head over to our troubleshooting page on docs.askui.com. There you will get all the instructions to set up for macOS or for Linux, for example. To stop the Annotate interactively, you just have to hit Escape.
So now let's get to the two-factor authentication. I think that's a really cool use case, because I think that many companies, even at the company that I'm working, we have all our applications have two-factor authentication, and we just lately talked about like, hey, how to automate a two-factor authentication process, and AskUI might be the solution, right, to use it in order to get rid of the hurdle of the two-factor authentication and to not modify the system for the automation, right? So that's what I've seen in the past is that companies disable two-factor for just to run their automated scripts because they cannot bypass this process. And AskUI might be the solution for you to order to do so.
Now that we've established that AskUI works as intended, we need to configure our real use case. For that, we need two UI controllers. One for the tablet and one for our browser. You can imagine UI controllers sitting as a service in your operating system, controlling your tablet or your browser on an operating system level. So we already prepared the chest setup, the real one TS, which contains all the configuration for the UI controllers. So let's head over to that file, copy it over to chest setup TS. And you see we have to put in there your workspace ID and your access token. So let's do that again. As you can see, there's no real UI controller configuration there anymore. That's because we start the UI controllers manually and they live as a service on a specific port. For the browser, we have it living on port 707, and for the Android tablet, we have it living on 6769. And obviously, we have to start them manually now. So let's do that in our terminal. Head over to your terminal. I just clear here to get a clear view. Depending on your operating system, the path to your UI controller differs a little bit. But basically, it's something like this. It's cd, your project directory, node modules, AskUI dist, release, latest, and then your platform. I'm on Mac OS, so for me this would be this path. Node modules, AskUI dist release latest Darwin, AskUI controller app, content Mac OS. Let's see if it's already there. Yeah, it's already there. And we want to start it on a specific port. You remember, for AskUI Android tablet, it was 6769. So when we want to start it for Android, we have to put in AskUI controller -R Android, and then we have to specify the port with -P, and it's 6769. This should connect us to our tablet. This should bring up an UI controller screen, and then it says select your screen. If you have more than one Android tablet.
That's really nice. So you can really select the screen that you would like to take on a look at or to scan.
Connected, then you could select a different screen. But we only have one, so let's select our tablet here, and down it goes. Now bring up a different terminal to start the UI controller for your browser. Hit here. We also have to change into the two-factor authentication here, and then to CD node modules. It's already saved here. And then we have to start a different UI controller for your browser. Now we have to start the AskUI controller without the -R flag for Android, but on port 7007. This should bring up another screen. You can see I have 3 screens here.
That's really cool. That's so helpful, I would say, right? You don't have to guess the screen ID or whatever, so you can just select what you can use. Perfect. That's great.
And I want to select this one. And that's it. Now we should bring up another terminal to actually execute our test. Switch to two-factor authentication directory again, and let's see what the new test is all about. Remember, we want to execute the second script here on line 4. So we want to execute the my first AskUI test suite test TS. Let's see what that is all about. There's a lot to digest here, but we'll go over it step by step. So let's move our terminal down a little bit so we can see better, and also remove the repository structure. Okay, let's start with the basic structure. We import the AskUI controller for our browser and for our Android tablet. That's okay. And then we have the basic chest structure, which describes a test suite and then the test case. The first instruction is there, so the mouse clicks on the browser again to get the focus when we start our test. Then we want to click on sign in to bring up the login form of GitHub. And then we want to type in our username, which is AskUI two-factor. You have to replace it with your username. And yeah, and we find the username here based on the text with the text username or email address. And this should be the label, and it's below the text field.
I like that. So you can really describe where the field is, or that the text element is visible, or like should be available to guide the tool. Actually, that's cool.
Type it. Then we use escape to lose the focus of the text field again, and select the password field. We want to type in our password here in the text field that is below the text with the text password. Password is the label again for the text field. Then we want to enter tab to get the focus on our login button and press enter. This is where the browser automation stops, and we have to switch to our tablet. Here. We use our Android key here to wake up the tablet if it has gone to sleep. Normally this shouldn't be the case, but in case it is your tablet that goes to sleep, it will wake up. And then we want to start the LastPass app. The LastPass app, it's not too intuitive. We could do it over the UI of the tablet, but that's not too reliable. We use exit on shell with the ADB bridge. That's a little bit of a trick here. And then we go to the LastPass app, and the text which displays our token is actually
just seeing that they're using the monkey tool, as I mentioned before, in order to execute the to tap on the element on the Authenticator LastPass app. Well, maybe it would also be possible to start directly with ADB, the Android application, but of course then it would not be like simulating a user like tapping on a screen, right? So two ways of doing it.
Tap, and we want the text to be there so that we see that the
That's cool.
accounts are connected here. And then we select the text below the text with the text GitHub, and that should be our token here. And we want to.
Maybe if I see like all these get text, get below, get thingy, one idea that just came to my mind, maybe there would be like I'm not sure how the internal structure of AskUI is, but like to have like more unified method names, right? So say like maybe there's like a method name saying, okay, get text below XYZ, so you only have to call one method in order to like, okay, do get text below right text. But on the other side, it's like really like generic and can be reused in all various elements on a screen, so it's more flexible. But just maybe for readability, it would be nice.
The way below works, it's not always guaranteed that you get the token here. This depends on the distance metric, which is not the Euclidean distance. And even if you use the Euclidean distance from the center of a bounding box, for example, that's not always going to work. So we get the element somewhere, but it's not guaranteed that's the first element below the GitHub token. So what we do here now is we sort the elements based on the bounding box's Y coordinate. And that should give us the first element. Then we can take the first element, and this should be the code, and get the text of the first element. Replace all things like new lines or spaces we found, and then type it into the mask that comes up when you do the browser automation. And that's it. This should bring us to our personal page on GitHub.
Yay, let's see now how this looks like in an executed state, right?
So we have to click on our browser here, so it gets the focus. If it loses the focus, the left click will focus again. And the first thing we see that it moves to the sign in, clicks on it.
Oh, look at this, it's really moving the mouse. You know, it's not just like highlighting or like navigating to the element that you would like to automate, but it's really moving the mouse, AskUI. That's really cool. I like that.
It finds the text field.
So it looks really like somebody in a remote situation is doing like the two-factor for you.
Our username, enters the password, switches to sign in, hits enter, and then we will see the last.
Oh, now the interesting part is going to happen, right? See, on the screen on GitHub we have to enter the code, but then on the Android tablet on the lower right corner we see LastPass app now.
Coming up, the text gets selected and entered into the authentication code. This may take a while because we use all the get functionality here and get all the elements.
Okay, maybe this was something I mentioned before, right? So maybe there could be like a more specific get functionality to do not get like everything if you know what you would like to have. But maybe I'm wrong. Oh, have you seen? It copied it from the tablet 598. Yeah, correct.
The code gets entered, cool. And voila, we are seeing our.
That is really cool. That is really cool. I need to try this out my own for our applications.
It's on the homepage, all without touching anything here.
Ah, that's great. Great.
In this tutorial, you learned how to set up two-factor authentication with a real Android device and the LastPass app on it. We automated this whole thing with AskUI.
Okay, I think we can stop here. So that's great. I hope you liked the very first reaction video that I've done. I really like the AskUI thing here. So if in case you haven't used it before or you haven't tried it out, You can go to AskUI.com and also to the developer documentation portal to get your connection, and then maybe try it out for your applications. And as I mentioned in the intro of the video, the thing is that AskUI is not only possible to automate a web application or a single mobile application, you can also do desktop application automation. So in case you would like to automate your Excel sheets, go for it. It's possible. I would not maybe not recommend to automate Excel, but AskUI is capable of, because you have this UI controller which is taking is scanning your whole screen, and then is giving you the access to the different objects. And I think that is really cool. Yeah, so let me know in the comments below what you think about AskUI. If you liked the video for today, leave me a thumbs up, leave a subscription, and I wish you a nice day. Bye bye.